Figure Bytes. Figure Bytes. Figure Bytes.
Welcome to another episode of Figure Bytes. I am six-figure breakthrough coach Wei Houng at the Six Figure Academy. And today we're going to talk about the infamous 80-20 rule. The problem with the 80-20 rule is that there's so many 80-20 rules for everything. They talk about 20% of effort for 80% of success, 20% of your clients or customers bring you 80% of the revenue. So there's a lot of different 80-20 rules. And if at this moment, I can't think of why that principle works so well. In some areas, I hear that there's 90-10 rule and everything. Whatever the case may be, I think the whole concept behind 80-20 rule is to simplify and distill down complexities that would normally, or is just a design to help us do things better. So, being a big fan of distilling things down, whether it be for my own benefit or whatever the case may be, what I found that when I do that and make things into bite-sized pieces, ergo Figure Bytes podcast series, it just makes it a lot easier for people to apply principles and take action where they normally would not due to overwhelm. So, today's 80-20 rule is about the 80-20 rule of six-figure success. Okay. So what is the 80-20 rule? What we're going to be focusing on is how you portion out your day. 80% of your day, 20% of the day, in terms of hours that you actually spend on your business. First and foremost, before we start talking about 80-20, we want you to identify how many hours you actually do want to work in a day. We're not talking so much about how many hours you're working now. We all have a goal that at some point for our six-figure lifestyle, how many hours do we actually want to work? Is it 40 hours a week on our business? Is it 25 hours a week? Is it 20 hours a week? Is it 10 hours a week? Whatever it is, take this opportunity right now while you're listening to this podcast to identify ultimately how many hours you want to work in a day. I will tell you right now, there are people who work 20, 25 hours a day or even less, making 7 figures or 8 figures a year. So the question is, instead of looking at what you are doing now, what you're spending now, let's first talk about where you want to be and how many hours you ultimately want to work. How many hours you ultimately want to work for the lifestyle you want to live, called the six-figure lifestyle. Remember, six-figure isn't just about making 6 figures, it's the lifestyle that it conveys. So, the 80-20 rule of six-figure success. So, let's make life easy. I'm going to break down the operations of your daily business as an entrepreneur as long as you are within 0 to, I would say, even $10 million in annual revenue. Your daily activity as a business owner should be broken down to 3 main areas. These 3 areas are what I call RPAs, BBAs, and ops. Okay. If you came to this by reading the blog, I'm going to define what those stand for. For those of you who've taken my workshops before, you know what RPA is. RPAs, let's start with that, are something that should be done daily across the board for every business. RPAs drive the business forward. What is it called? It stands for revenue producing activities. The best way to define what that is, and I think I'm going to have a separate podcast, Six-Figure Byte, just to talk about RPAs, a separate Six-Figure Byte just to talk about BBAs, and a separate one just to talk about ops. But for the sake of this particular one, the 80-20 rule of six-figure success podcast, let's just define what those are. Revenue-producing activities are activities that have a direct impact on generating revenue, or the direct impact of your activity translating into revenue for the business. For example, doing a sales call where you close the sale, that is a revenue producing activity. So the next one is called BBA. What is a BBA? BBA stands for business building activity. In other words, when you build a house, you would lay brick by brick. That's a business building activity. The brick itself of the house or of the business, or for example, getting furniture for the office so when you have a meeting, people can actually sit down while you're meeting with clients, doesn't necessarily directly translate to revenue, but it's a necessary piece. For example, spending a lot of time building your website, spending a lot of time building your autoresponder for your email, spending the time organizing a systematic structure for taking care of your prospects is a business building activity. In other words, you can probably call BBAs are the activities you do to create systems for growth in your business. They don't necessarily translate to revenue right away. They actually support your RPA activities. Okay, so that's the second part. So what is ops? Ops basically stands for operations. Operations are when you are servicing your clients. And that's a kind of tricky area, but let's say that you're servicing your clients, daily operations of taking care of administrative things such as taking care of bills, checking your accounting, developing policies, procedures, hiring people, firing people. There's daily operations that are necessary to keep the business running. This is called trench work. Usually operations work is something that you as a business owner eventually you don't have a very big hand in. Okay. So those are the three major parts of an entrepreneur business that you should be focusing on. As long as you're 0 to 10 million, those are the three main components. So how do we divvy those up in the 80-20 rule of the day? Let's say, for example, you are working for the sake of the ease of calculation. Let's say you're working 10 hours a day. You shouldn't be working 10 hours a day. But anyway, just for the sake of argument, let's say you work even better. Let's say you work 5 hours a day. 5 times 5 because you're a six-figure superstar. You're doing 5 hours a day, which makes 25 hours on a work week. 25 hours to make 6, 7, or 8 figures, whatever your six-figure lifestyle dictates. Now, if you were to apply the 80-20 rule, 80% of the day, which is 4 hours, should be spent on one section. 20% should be spent on another. Do you want to know what the breakdown is? So the breakdown is this. Six-figure success 80-20 rule is 80% of your regular workday. So in this particular case, a 5-hour workday, 4 of those hours of the 5-hour workday should be spent on RPAs and BBAs, revenue producing activity and business building activity. And where does ops go? You guessed it, the 20%, the 1 hour day for spending on operations or necessary things to keep the business going. Now, obviously, if you have a full staff, you can have staff hired to work on operations all day long. Your main focus, though, as an entrepreneur or intrapreneur or as an owner of your business within a business or a business itself is on the 80%. That's where you should be putting your genius because that's what drives your business forward. The question I get all the time is, well, Wei, I am a solopreneur and I have to deal with my clients. So when you said that operations is like servicing clients. Yes, and this is where it gets a little bit interesting. When I talk about servicing your clients, there is a specific mindset and approach to it to make it a blend of the 80-20. Sure. Let's look at 80-20. 80-20 rule is 80% of the time as you're working with your clients is focused on business building. 20% is basically truly servicing the client. So the question is, if you're spending an hour to work with your servicing your client, 20% of it is really kind of taking care of that client. 80% is also positioning that client or that customer to be a business building asset for your business. See, for those of you who have yet to read The Referral Engine, I talk about that a lot. It's by John Jansch. It talks about positioning, having your clients, more importantly, how do we say this? You don't want just happy clients. When you have the right mindset, your clients should be raving clients. And when raving clients get excited and emotionally loyal to you and your business and your service or your product, they become positioned as you continue to take care of them as business building activity and then eventually revenue producing activity because they start referring you new business. Okay. This is a whole separate thing. I just wanted to kind of address that question because it comes up a lot when I talk about this 80-20 rule. So rest assured, if you are servicing your clients or your customers properly, you won't violate the 80-20 rule. Now, 80-20 rule isn't something that we expect someone to expect you to achieve overnight. It is a process, but as long as you set that as a goal to hit the 80-20 rule, which is 80% of your day spent on RPAs and BBAs and 20% of the day spent on operations or ops, then what happens is eventually you will find that your business will start to exponentially grow and move forward and continuously forward, and it will consistently pull you out of the trenches so you don't no longer become an employee of your own business. Hopefully that was a good six-figure bite for you today. If you know someone else or a peer that can take advantage of it, by all means, definitely share it, because as you know, sharing is caring. If you haven't subscribed to our blog yet, make sure you go to the sixfigureacademy.com. That's the number six, figureacademy.com, and subscribe to our blog there. You can also subscribe to us on Spreaker or SoundCloud. And of course, if you found us on iTunes, hopefully you're already subscribed there. And that way you can receive all of our new six-figure bites. So until next time, this was today's 80-20 rule of six-figure success, six-figure bite.
Six-figure bite.